Hello there, I'm Brian Goulet of gouletpens.com, and I'm here for a nice lengthy review of the Omas Arte Italiana Vision, which is in the Milord size. This is the second Omas pen that we've ever carried here at gouletpens.com. The first one was back in November of 2014, the Ogiva Alba, and I would say it went over pretty well. We were pretty impressed with the quality and the service that we got from Omas. Definitely some alignment of values between their company and ours, so we thought we'd go ahead and try another pen. Omas is celebrating their 90th anniversary this year. They were founded in 1925, so they came out with this Vision as sort of an anniversary pen. They're only making 331 of each color worldwide, so they are a limited number pen. However, the number is not actually engraved or anything on the pen, so there's no individual numbering going on, but still pretty limited in the grand scheme of things. Now, the Arte Italiana is one of their classic pens. It's been around for decades, and it's got this 1930s Art Deco design, which is really distinctive, and especially distinctive to it is this 12-faceted, the dodecagonal faceting, if you will, which is really hard to manufacture. I messed around a little bit that back in my pen making days, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I can tell you that trying to make faceted pens is really tough because there's only so much machining you can do. A lot of it just comes down to handwork. So trying to do that handwork on these 12-sided pens is really challenging, especially a 12-sided center band like this pen has. Really challenging. So all of that adds up to a relatively, high-priced pen, which is $625 list price MSRP. We're selling it at Goulet for $495. So it is an expensive pen. It's not astronomical though. So I'm gonna go ahead and just review as much of this pen as I possibly can to show you everything I can before you make an investment like you would on a pen of this price. The packaging on this pen is really nice. It's definitely packaging that you would expect from a pen in this price range. So I have one of each pen here in a sample, but I have this one that's completely all packaged up here. So it says Arte Italiana on it, which is really cool. You go in here, it's got a bunch of barcodes and stuff, which don't really tell you much, but you very gently and delicately open up the outer box, which is this nice kind of like silvery metallic, and then the box inside is really solid. That's one of the best things I like about Omas is the way they do their boxes. And then it's got this, it says Italian creativity, history, craftsmanship, the pleasure of writing, kind of indented on there. So that's kind of cool. And then the packaging inside is really nice. It's got this nice little inset in here with a pen sleeve, and you can actually flip this guy over, and that can be a 2-pen thing. So that's kind of cool. Not something I've seen very much. Underneath the pen cradle there, you've got a couple of cards here, one of which is signed, a little warranty card. And it's got a little booklet too, which has really nice kind of booklet, which has some Omas history and shows you some of their other models of pens, how they manufacture certain things, how to fill the pen, and so on. So that's really nice. They have one of the more comprehensive warranty and information packets included with their pen that I've seen. And then when you actually pull the pen out of the sleeve, it's going to be wrapped in plastic, oftentimes with this paper thing that's signed here because they're all individually crafted and inspected. So I'm not going to actually open this one because I have a couple of samples here that I'll use to show further, but that gives you an idea of kind of the presentation you're going to get with the Vision. Once you actually take the pen out of this beautiful packaging, you can get one of 2 different colors. So there's a liquid blue and a liquid green. Now the whole theme behind the Arte Italiana Vision is watercolor. So they were kind of inspired by watercolor, so it's a translucent material that is very similar to the Omas Ogiva Alba that was recently released about 6 months ago or so. The 2 colors are both translucent. The blue is a little bit more translucent than the green, and they have 2 different hardwares that can come with the pen. So you don't have the option to select which one mixes and matches. If you pick the blue, it's going to come with a rhodium hardware, which is this kind of silver color with matching nib. And the green one comes with ruthenium, which is kind of this like black titanium, kind of gunmetal looking color. Really interesting. Don't see this on a whole lot of pens. I think it pairs really nicely with the green. So it's really neat to see those. I think they paired those really well. The material that this pen is made of is called cotton resin, which is kind of a proprietary design that Omas came up with. It's basically a blend between an acrylic resin and a natural material that comes from cotton seeds. So because you have kind of that blend there, you get a little bit of the benefits of both. Typically when you go with a completely organic material such as a celluloid, it's going to be very, warm to the touch. It's going to feel very smooth. It's going to have some nice characteristics such as it's going to be kind of self-polishing, very durable. However, it has a higher tendency to stain and things like that. It's an extremely expensive material. It takes a very long time to manufacture a true celluloid pen. But when you have a blend kind of like this, you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. So it's a little more economical than a pure celluloid pen would be. You get some of the benefits of some of the self-polishing aspects. It's very durable, and it feels really nice. It feels a little bit more like a celluloid than your typical acrylic pen, and it's kind of warm to the touch. You don't feel that necessarily quite as much on this pen because the grip is made of metal, so you're not touching the resin quite as much unless you kind of intentionally stroke the pen, as I'm finding it difficult to resist doing even as I'm speaking about this pen. But that is one thing that's really neat about this particular pen, is that cotton resin material. The Vision is a relatively heavy pen. It's not super heavy. It's 33 grams overall. A lot of that weight is going to be in the grip because it's got a metal grip. Now normally this pen wouldn't come with a metal grip. It would come with a resin that would match the rest of the pen. However, there is something else that's interesting on this particular one. Normally this side, the Milord, the smaller size of the Arte Italiana, is a cartridge converter pen, but this one is piston. And because they wanted to make it piston, they had to actually design the grip to be metal so that the piston can slide all the way down into the grip of the pen. That's why they did it that way. So in order to have enough strength and integrity in that grip, they had to make it metal. So that metal grip is one thing that you may or may not love or hate about this pen. For me personally, usually metal grips are not my go-to because they can feel a little slick when you're holding them after a while. This one has felt pretty good though. For whatever reason, I'm able to hold this one a little better than some other ones. I think it has to do with the fact that there's kind of a slight taper. It doesn't taper really heavily. I have a hard time with some other pens like maybe the Lamy Studio because it tapers really heavily. I have a hard time kind of holding on to it. This one's really gentle though. And it has the threads that are into the grip here that are really kind of shallow. And it actually, my thumb kind of holds onto those threads so that it gives me a little bit better grip on the pen, doesn't slip around quite as much. And those threads don't bother my thumb at all. So it's really kind of just an interesting setup here with the metal grip and then the threads and all that. But just something to really kind of take into consideration with this pen, because the part that you're going to be holding it is really important overall. Because of the metal grip, the pen tends to be pretty front weighted, especially when you don't have it capped. There is a little bit of metal here up in the cap too. So when you have it capped, it's a little bit long overall, which for me is not a problem at all because I have large hands. If you got smaller hands, maybe it's something you have to take into consideration. But it's really well balanced when it's posted. When it's not posted, it tends to be a little front weighted, so you'll probably naturally want to hold it a little closer to the nib. The ink capacity on this pen, I measured it out and it's not super exact, but it's about 1.3 milliliters, which is pretty good. It's definitely more than your typical cartridge converter. Not quite as much as the Ogiva Alba was. That was about 1.8. So you're going to get a little bit less than that, but for the size pen that it is, I think it's pretty decent overall. The nibs that are available on the Vision are the same that were available previously on the Ogiva Alba. So you have two different 14 karat extra flexible options in the extra fine and the fine. And then you have 4 different options for the 18 karat gold. So you have an extra fine, fine in medium conventional size nib, and then a medium metallic, which is about a 1.1, which is untipped, just like the Alba was. So I know you're thinking, okay, extra flexible, is this thing going to be like a dream flex pen, that kind of thing? Well, if you saw any of my videos previously on the Ogiva Alba, it's actually the exact same nibs that are used on the Ogiva Alba. So if you have one of those, or if you read reviews on that pen, this pen writes very, very, very similarly to that. So you can go ahead and just kind of check those out. The warning that I want to give you about the flexible nibs is that they are very soft and it's very easy to spring them if you try to flex them too much. So I know you're spending a lot of money on this pen if you buy it, but don't go thinking that because you're spending more, this pen is going to be able to just take all kinds of abuse. You're going to have to be fairly careful with it when you're flexing it out. So if you aren't going to be using it with a lot of flex, or if you aren't really kind of know what you're getting into, I recommend the conventional 18 karat nibs. I want to specifically point out some details on the cap of the Vision. It's about a 1 1/4 turn to unscrew it. So you can definitely do it with one hand motion without having to reposition your hand. You got to stretch just a little bit, and if you got smaller hands, you might be kind of on the brink there. I know that's something that's important to some of you. And then the cap itself is that kind of 12-faceted design. The center band itself has that 12-faceted design too, which is really neat. That Art Deco design with Omas Italy engraved on it. The clip itself is fairly tight, I will say, but it does have a wheel built into the clip, so it makes it a little easier to slide it on and off your shirts if you're going to go putting this thing on your blue jeans or overalls or something. Not that you probably would with a pen like this, but it might be a little tight on some of your thicker clothing. And then it has this circular finial, this circular kind of inset in the finial on the cap of the pen. Nice kind of little detail there. And then to help the nib from drying out, there is a plastic insert that is inset into this pen. It's not so easy to pull it out if you get any ink behind there because it's actually screwed into the pen with the clip. Theoretically it's possible, but it will be a little bit of a challenge. So because these are translucent pens, sometimes when you get a little bit of ink up in there, you can see it. So it's just something to kind of be aware of. The pen is a twist cap, and it's a very smooth feeling action. It's got metal threads on the barrel, but it threads onto plastic threads on the inside. So it's really smooth feeling. And then when you post it onto the back of the pen, it's just a friction fit posting on there. And I know when you have a piston filling pen, you always kind of wonder, is it posting onto the filler knob? So can you twist it and does ink come out of the pen, or is it posting onto the body? Well, this pen, it posts onto the body. So you don't have to worry about, you know, the cap moving and twisting and getting ink everywhere while you're trying to write. It's going to post securely onto the back of the body of the pen. So just to give you a comparison of the overall size, you can see I've got the Ogiva Alba here right next to the Vision, and I actually have both in the green. It just so happens to be the green on the Alba was a little more of a teal. It's a little more of kind of a forest green on the Vision. Overall, the pens are very similar in size and length. It's a little more weight on the Vision just because of that metal grip, I think. But overall, if you like the size of the Ogiva, I think you'll really like the size of this Milord Vision. And then the grips, the thing you'll notice on those is that the threads are a little further back on the Vision as opposed to the Ogiva, where it's really kind of closer up on there. All right, let's go ahead and ink up the Vision. The one that I've chosen here is an 18 karat extra fine. This is the one that I prefer for this pen, mainly just because I like the 18 karat, how it's got a little bit of softness to it, but it still is good for everyday writing. And the extra fine is a nice size for this one. I've got a bottle of Omas Violet here, which is kind of just, you know, shows you a little bit of what the Omas ink is like. They don't have a huge range of colors for their particular pen, for their inks, but you can see as I have this kind of translucent one, I chose the blue one because it is a little more translucent than the green. As I'm moving the piston, see I just unscrew this filler knob here right at the end of the pen. You can kind of see the piston moving inside the pen like that. Well, as I'm moving it down, you can see where most other pens, the piston would usually stop right at the back of the grip. But because of the way they designed this one for the piston to actually go down into the grip, you can see here I just keep on twisting it, and that thing just keeps on going down into the grip of the pen. So I guess kind of the drawback of that is, you know, as you get towards the last maybe 30–40% of your pen, the ink is going to be kind of down in the grip, and you won't really be able to see it unless you kind of tilt it back and you're able to get it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. So you just put that piston all the way down. You take the pen and you just stick it into the ink so that it goes all the way up to the grip, and you just kind of slowly unscrew. And you can do this a couple of times if you really want to fill it well, and then Omas recommends just kind of unscrew it again until you get a drip or two that come out. And then you're going to have some ink that's going to be on your grip. You just kind of wipe it off. And then we're ready to write. Now when you're writing with the Omas Arte Italiana Vision, it does have a little bit of feedback to it. The nibs overall are very smooth, and it has just a little bit of spring to it in the 18 karat. Now this one that I'm using is the extra fine. I do find that it's a fairly wet writing pen. Now I have a little bit of a heavy hand, and I do keep my pen angle fairly low, which both of those things have a little more of a tendency to have a wetter writing experience. I think that's pretty characteristic of what most people experience with the Omas pens. One of the kind of unique things about Omas is that they use hand-cut ebonite feeds for their pens, which is something that you really don't see on a lot of fountain pens. And the reason that ebonite is good is because it allows for a consistent flow. It helps with the capillary action, because ebonite itself is a somewhat porous material, so it actually makes the ink flow a little bit nicer, and it allows them to be very exact in how they want to cut everything. So I find that the control that you get with this pen is really nice. The nib is smooth, so it feels really good on the paper, especially a nice smooth paper like this Rhodia here, but it still allows you for an element of control. I don't feel like I'm slipping and sliding out of control as I'm going. It allows me to kind of stop and then just kind of keep on going as I need to. And the extra fine is the nib size that I think I like the most for this particular one, especially if I was going to be using it on paper that's not as nice as Rhodia. It would be this size that would be the thinnest, so it would put down the least amount of ink. If you go with something more like a fine or a medium, it's going to be quite a bit wetter. You have to be a little more picky, I think, about your paper choice, because the pens are a little wetter flowing than maybe some other ones you might have used. But overall, a fantastic writing experience. Can definitely see why Omas has the reputation that it does for its writing. So there is my full look at the Omas Arte Italiana Vision. If you have any questions about it, you can ask me on YouTube or on the blog. Be sure to check out the more details and technical specs and all kinds of other stuff, more pictures, you name it, on gouletpens.com. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video and you want more like it, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much, and right on.